Thanks so much, Chris, and thanks to everyone for showing up live here today. I know your time is very valuable, so we appreciate you joining us today. And thanks to NinjaTrader for having me on. So I'm leaving my camera on today because I don't have any fancy charts to show you. We're talking about trading psychology, and we're going to go pretty deep into that. Just in case anyone hasn't met me in any other context before, my name's Créde Sheehy-Kelly, and I'm a high performance and trading psychologist based in Ireland. So I'm chartered with the Psychological Society of Ireland, but I've been coaching high performers since 2007. So about, quite a long time, almost 2 decades at this point. And just to be very upfront at the outset, I don't trade myself. So before you throw tomatoes at me, I'll explain why it's relevant that my expertise is on the side of high performance and performance psychology. And that's what I'm bringing to the table here. So I'm going to take all of that expertise and all of that in-depth knowledge of the human psyche, and we're going to apply it directly to your trading today to help show you how you can take your trading from average to elite, at least on the mental and emotional psychological side of things. So I'm going to answer questions at the end. I'm going to keep an eye on the chat, but I'll be better to answer them at the end so that I can get through the presentation and, field everything. So I'll just ask people, if you do have a question, even if you throw it in the chat, I might ask you to throw it in again at the very end so that it comes to the top of the chat and, I can cover all of them. And please do feel free to ask questions either on what I'm about to present or just general, if you have questions about trading psychology in general, like how can I recover quicker after a loss, all those kind of ones. I'm happy to field them as well. So before we jump into the presentation, I also just want to explain that I'm going to make 2 assumptions from the outset of this talk. One is that given that this is kind of advanced trading psychology, it's for experienced traders, I'm going to assume that everyone who's attending has a well-defined strategy for their trading, has a solid rule-based plan. So the reason why I'm saying that is because up to that point in your trading, so when you're a beginner and you're just putting together your strategy, you're learning the technical side of things, the psychology side of things isn't as important. I mean, it's still in the mix, but really the most important thing is about developing that skill set on the technical side of things. It's when you know exactly what you should be doing in the market, so you have that solid rule-based tested plan, and then you can't do it consistently. That's when psychology becomes so important. So I'm just going to assume that for everything we talk about today, we're going to base that on the assumption that you do have a solid rule-based plan, that if you executed it like a robot, you would be profitable. The second thing I'm going to assume is that everybody has already bought into the idea that psychology is at least somewhat important for your trading. I'm not here to make a case for or convince anyone that psychology is important. I'm just going to assume that you're already thinking along those lines, and we'll take it from there. Okay. So I have 3 goals with this session today. So the first one, now I'm not going to achieve this in 30 minutes, I understand that. But my overall goal with what I do in the trading psychology space is to overhaul how you guys and the entire industry thinks about trading psychology. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I'm coming from this background of, in-depth psychology and performance psychology. And I see a lot of surface level mindset tips, on YouTube and in chat rooms and all of that, which are useful, but only at the level of a band-aid. So I want to really open people's minds up to the idea that working on your psychology can be something that's systematic and trainable. And you can take the same approach towards training your trading psychology as you do towards training the technical aspects of your trading. And I'll explain that in more depth today. I also want to talk about a new paradigm for achieving elite level discipline, execution, and consistency. So even the most experienced traders often still bump up against periods of indiscipline, some triggers for emotion-based trading, performance slumps, performance ceilings. It's kind of an ongoing part of your trading that if you really want to reach that elite level and, have that high level of consistent profitability, it's something that you need to be consistently working on all the time. In the same way that Olympic athletes are always working to optimize their mindset, we want to take that same approach with trading. So just to put people's minds at ease, if you're an experienced trader, you've been trading for, 20 years and you still haven't hit that 100% consistency, that's totally normal. And there are a lot of practical things that you can do to improve that execution, by another couple of percent. And I want to share a process today. So one is a framework for thinking about your trading psychology. And then secondly, an invitation to take that to the practical level to really level up your trading. But I'm going to share a process that you can use to overcome any trading psychology challenge today. That might sound like a bold claim, sounds too good to be true, like I'm offering a quick fix, and I'm not. What I'm saying is, sorry, I've got a laptop here beside me and it's just shut me out of it. So what I'm saying is that I can give you a framework that helps you think about trading psychology in a different way that unlocks the pathway for overcoming any trading psychology challenge. So it doesn't mean that the actual overcoming it is easy, but once you have the recipe for approaching it in a specific way, then it becomes something that's simple, but it does take work. Hopefully that makes sense to everyone, and most definitely it should make more sense by the time we finish our presentation today. So just a quick outline of the talk. I'm going to explain why 99% of traders fail to reach consistent profitability. And that's not me making up that stat, that's drawn on research. We're going to talk about the trading psychology advice that doesn't cut it. So even though people are well-meaning and there is some helpful tips and stuff out there, it's just not robust or deep enough to take you from average to elite. So we're going to explain that in more depth. We'll talk about this high performance paradigm to build unbreakable trading psychology. And I want to make that very concrete. So even stick with me if it starts to feel a bit abstract or, heady. I am going to take it to the concrete level and explain different trading psychology challenges and actually work through the framework with examples so that we can make it very concrete. I'm all about making trading psychology something that's very practical and applied, because if you want to make transformation in your trading, it can only come through taking action. Just sitting and absorbing what I'm talking about today is great, but until you actually start applying that, it can't change anything in your trading. So I'm all about keeping things practical. And then I'll just talk about some next steps for cultivating elite level execution and consistency in your trading. And also, I should say, there is a bonus at the end for all live attendees, and that's a free PDF chapter of my contribution to the book that I published with Andrew Aziz in the summer. It's called TradeBook. So everyone will get a copy of that, and there's no email opt-in or anything. It's just, straight download. So I'll give you the link for that at the end. Okay. Let's go for it. So this pretty sobering stat tells us that only 1% of day traders predictably profit net of fees. And yes, the research is from 2010, so it's a little bit dated. They also said in this study that 80% of day traders quit before, I think it was 2 years into the journey, 80% of traders will have quit. So they're pretty sobering statistics. And even though, yes, the research is dated, we could probably assume that that's pretty accurate still today. And at least to give you a sense of how accurate that might be, my entire business is pretty much almost exclusively working with traders to help them execute their trading plan. That's my entire livelihood at the moment. Is helping traders do that, which gives you an understanding of the extent of the problem. So if you're a trader that's, and you're experienced and you felt like I'm the only person in the world who can't respect my stop loss or stick to my trading plan, or I suffer from emotion-based trading, nobody else does, that's absolutely not the case. It's so prevalent that this is what my business is about. But we want to understand, why is this the case? Because 1% of people, for all the people that put this effort into trading and learning it and trying to perfect it and trying to make money in the markets, only 1% being, successful consistently over time is a pretty low statistic. So why do we think that is? Firstly, is when you understand what you should be doing and you can't do it, that's a psychology issue. So, like I said, we're assuming that everyone has the theoretically profitable trading plan. So, if you can't execute it, it has to be something in your own wiring, your mental, emotional wiring that is preventing you from executing it. So, if that's the case, I'm not going to say 1/3 of people, it doesn't split out that way, but one group of traders, why are they not, being more successful? They possibly just don't understand the relevance of trading psychology for their trading. They're very much stuck in just thinking about it from the technical perspective, the skills-based perspective, what strategies should I be using? What indicators should I use? And they stop there. Now, I will say that's probably, in my experience, or maybe I'm biased because of what I work in, maybe I just see more of the people who are interested in psychology. But I would say that that's a relatively small amount of people, because really, if you've been trading for any length of time, you've been bitten by your psychology. You will have experienced the pain of breaking your rules, indiscipline, losing money to the market due to something that's going on, within you as opposed to within the market. So then we have a second group of traders who do understand that it's important, but they just don't know how to work on it. So it's this abstract, nebulous concept. And even though they're motivated to change it, they just don't know how to actually start doing it, how to go about it, or they have a lack of practical tools. So even though they might be, reading some books and stuff, they just don't have the actual techniques to make that transformation in the physical level. And then we have another group of traders who are really bought into the idea that psychology impacts their trading performance. They're reading all the books, they're watching the YouTube videos, they've read Mark Douglas, they understand it all, but they're kind of approaching it from the perspective of a hobbyist. So they gather all of this information, but it's all ad hoc and it's not joined together in any kind of system. So when that happens, what usually happens is that they're trying to use ad hoc advice to improve different random aspects of their trading. So it could be that this month, for whatever reason, they're really experiencing greed and FOMO. And so they look for the solutions to greed and FOMO. Or maybe it's that, they're taking low quality setups. And so they look on YouTube for the solution to just that problem. But I'm going to explain now why that just doesn't cut it if you want to actually take your trading to the level of an elite trader. So I'm going to use a sports analogy just to explain this. I find it easier to bring it back to concrete analogies. So if we imagine somebody who's, started the new Year's resolution, they want to get fit. And they decide, I'm really motivated, I'm going to do everything I can to get fit. So maybe they take up jogging, they go to the gym a few times a week. They've heard that ice baths or sea swimming is good. They do a bit of yoga for flexibility, but they're kind of picking them like it's a menu, and they don't consistently implement any one thing with any level of systematic approach. They're just kind of doing all of these different things. They're consistently doing some of it each week, but just not, without a plan. The likelihood is that, yes, they will increase their fitness, but not to the level of an elite athlete. And they won't be approaching it in the same way that they would be if their entire livelihood depended on it. And for most traders who are even bothered watching a webinar like this, you're serious about your trading. You want to make good money. You want to make a full living, or you want to increase the living that you're making from it. And so the average kind of hobbyist approach to your trading psychology isn't going to cut it to get you to that level. So it's not to say there's anything wrong with approaching it from that hobbyist level. It just depends on the level of your goals. If you have big, ambitious goals for trading, then you need to kick up your approach to trading psychology and take it to a high performance approach. So the difference between the casual fitness enthusiast and the professional athlete is something like this. So I borrowed this, I put the reference there, I just borrowed this off YouTube from a strength and conditioning expert. This isn't my plan that I put together. But if we imagine, let's take a soccer player. So we'll take Cristiano Ronaldo, because Ireland are playing Portugal tonight in soccer, and Cristiano Ronaldo is there in the Aviva in Dublin, playing his heart out at the moment. So let's imagine that this is Cristiano Ronaldo, who is trying to get better at his bottom line performance. So scoring goals. He's a striker. He needs to score goals. So he's going to have a completely different approach to improving his fitness than the casual hobbyist. He's going to have every aspect of his fitness dialed in. He'll have a plan for his strength and conditioning, his recovery. He'll be taking into account his biomechanics, flexibility, probably doing exercises to increase his vertical jump height, his VO2 max. And all of those aspects of his fitness will be taken care of in a plan. And that plan itself will be periodized. So he won't be doing the same level of training consistently all year long. There'll be an off season, there'll be a pre-season where they work on more of the physical side of things. Then they'll tailor it more into skills. So the idea is that it's this much more sophisticated, systematic approach to improving fitness than the casual fitness enthusiast. And this is the approach that we want to take towards improving your trading psychology. And you might be feeling this is a bit, overkill, or maybe it's a bit confusing. How would you possibly go about creating a plan like this for your trading psychology? So we're going to answer that now. So the difference is, just to really hammer this home, you're going from one size fits all tips, like the typical trading psychology advice that you find online, things like hide your P&L, focus on win rates instead of your P&L, trade higher time frames, just focus on executing your plan, focus on the process. Even though that's true and useful advice, it doesn't actually tell you how to go about doing that. So you're going from these one size fits all tips to a highly specialized training plan that's, customized to you. And it's customized to the specific outcome that you want to achieve. So you say, I want to improve my trading performance, I want to improve consistency. And then we get really specific and granular about what does that look like across all of these different variables that combine to produce peak performance. So that could be, from a concrete perspective, you wanting to execute your plan could mean that you have to have goals that keep you motivated, that are helping you focus on the execution of your plan as opposed to the P&L. It could mean that you're also looking at how well you recover after a loss, how quickly do you bounce back mentally, the speed of your decision making, all of those different metrics that combine to produce peak performance. Also, when we take this high performance approach, we look at your current context as a starting point. So it shouldn't be, people are at all different levels of their trading journey. So if you're someone who is 2 years into your trading journey and you're saying to yourself, I should have been consistently profitable yesterday because this person over here made it within a year, and you're comparing yourself to other people, it doesn't serve you. So you really want to, with a plan like this, you want to audit your current context and then create the plan and all of your goals based on where you are now. So a big mistake that I see a lot of people make is that they set their goals too high, or they create expectations for themselves that are highly pressured and unrealistic. And they don't need to, because if they actually just took this phased, systematic approach to improving each aspect of their trading and their trading psychology, they would get to that same level, and probably quicker than the route of heaping all the pressure on themselves. And then the difference again between the hobbyist and the professional is that the plan is systematized and incorporates progression for peak performance. So you actually have, part of the plan is planning for how you scale up. How do you maintain the level of performance that you've hit when you increase the size, you increase the pressure? Can you keep your psychology robust and watertight as you move up the levels of pressure? Because ultimately that's what you want to do. You want to make, I assume, more money from trading. And at each juncture, at each step up, the pressure gets higher. So you want to make a plan that takes that into account. So I'm just keeping an eye on time here. Okay, so this is to jump into the 4 arenas of high performance framework. So this is the framework that I want to share with you today. I'm going to go kind of deep into this and explain it in depth so that you can apply this to your own trading. And we're going to conceptualize trading as if you're going to battle in 4 different arenas simultaneously. So this bullseye target in the middle here that's the overall goal. And I'm not going to say that's being profitable, because we can't control that. That's an outcome that we can't actually control, how much profit we make from a trade, because we can't control the full market. And that's something that we can set a target around. But even there could be an instance where you execute your plan perfectly and you still don't make money. So instead of that, we make, in all of our mental edge, talking about our mental edge and talking about trading psychology, the ultimate bottom line goal is to execute your trading plan exactly as you intended to on every trade. So that's the bullseye target. That's what we're working towards with this framework. And then that's winning the war, if you want to put it in those terms. So if you want to win the war, you have to win the battle across each of these arenas: the physical, the mental, the emotional subconscious, and the spiritual energetic. And I'm going to explain each of these now. So if the bullseye target is executing your plan exactly as you intended to on every trade, then the physical arena is the arena where, I'm just going to move into each of these now. The physical arena is where you're taking the physical actions that represent you executing your plan. So you're, setting the right risk on your trades, your position sizing, you have criteria for entries, you've set your stop loss, all of those physical aspects of your trading plan. You're taking the actions to execute that in the market. And then also, we can also take into account the physical actions that you're taking to put you, the person, so you've got a person and a performer, the actions that you take to put you, the person, in the best position possible to execute your plan. So those would be things like the amount of sleep that you're getting, your nutrition, your hydration, and all of those matter. If we're taking a high performance approach to trading, all of those variables do actually impact how you execute your plan. So if a trader is in the physical arena, they're only focused on the physical arena, they don't consider anything else important, then they're paying attention to all those technical aspects of their trading plan. And just because they don't believe or pay attention to the other arenas doesn't mean that they're not being affected by them. Because if you're a trader and you've set your stop and your target and all of that, and you're in a winning trade, and the anxiety takes over and the uncertainty of whether you're going to lose the gains that you've made on this winning trade kicks in and you jump out of it, you're being affected by the other arenas, even if you don't consider it important or you're not paying attention to it. So each of these circles are impacted by all of the circles that encompass them. So we want to think about it like that. So if a trader is only considering the physical arena, they're battling away, trying to execute their plan. But most likely, if they're not paying attention to the other arenas, they probably won't be consistently successful in doing that. Then we have the mental arena. So the mental arena, we're going to talk about in terms of your conscious mind. So everything that you're aware of that you're thinking. And if you're battling in the mental arena, then things that you would be considering would be, maybe you're comparing yourself to other traders. Maybe you are focused on the P&L, so the outcome of the trade, more so than executing your process. It's all of the things that you're battling with in your conscious mind. So even the thoughts that you're aware of as you're trading. So you're in that winning trade and your thinking is going, oh, I might be, I could lose the gains that I've made. I should get out now and just bank the profit. I don't want to stay in. All of that is the battle that's going on in the mental arena. So if you win the battle in the mental arena, all of the contents of your conscious mind is optimized to support the execution of your trading plan. So in the emotional subconscious arena, this is the arena where a lot of people kind of stop at the mental one. So all of the surface level trading psychology advice that you find on the internet usually kind of centers around the mental arena. But it's just not enough to stop there, because actually most of the indiscipline in your trading, so most of the greed, the FOMOing into low quality setups, the ignoring your stops, the ignoring your daily loss limit, the revenge trading, most of that is actually being driven by this arena, the emotional subconscious arena. And it's the one that people maybe either they're not aware that it's important, or they're a bit hesitant to actually go digging around in their subconscious, to improve their trading. So if I could get one thing across from this presentation today, it would be that if you're struggling with any aspect of indiscipline or rule breaking in your trading, looking to the emotional subconscious arena to understand why that's happening will be one of the most effective things that you can do in terms of overcoming it. So in this arena, we're looking at how your emotions are affecting your actions. So if you're feeling these really highly charged emotions of anxiety, greed, maybe it's fear, pressure, they are impacting how you execute your plan. And sometimes they take over. So even though you know that you should be only taking 3 trades a day and only taking your A+ setup criteria, but you're taking 10 trades and you don't really care about the quality of them as you're in the moment, that's likely being driven by this arena. And what happens here is that your subconscious mind actually controls 95% of your actions. So if you ignore this arena and you're not looking at what's happening here and you're not actively trying to win the battle here, then 95% of your actions in the market are being driven by an entity that is outside your conscious control. So that's a huge risk that you're taking on before you ever enter a trade. So what we want to do in this arena to win the battle is you want to optimize all of your deep subconscious beliefs around money, around self-worth, around achievement, and optimize those so that they all support the execution of your trading plan. So, and also that you're executing your plan regardless of what emotions that you feel. And there are practical mental training tools and techniques like using affirmations, lots of different tools that you can use to optimize the contents of your subconscious mind. But first, you have to understand where you're losing the battle in this arena. So if you find that you have some specific aspect of your plan that you're never executing, or you're always going on tilt after you have 3 losses in a row, then look to this arena and ask yourself, where am I losing the battle in this arena? What strong emotions am I feeling just before I do that? What limiting patterns or subconscious beliefs might I hold that would lead me to take these actions? And once you do that, then you can rewire those beliefs and the charge of the emotions will lessen and it frees you up to execute your plan. And then the last arena is the spiritual, energetic arena. Now, some people, they're religious, they're into manifestation, the spirituality side of things, and they can look at this arena through one lens. But if that's not what you're into, you can also just take it at the level of your values and your belief in something bigger than yourself. So like your trading why, your motivation for trading. So this arena is the one where you want your energy. So all of your internal wiring, everything that you project out to the world. So how your mind and emotions create your energy that gets projected outwards. You want that aligned with the execution of your trading plan. So if you're walking around with a deeply held belief around scarcity that, I never have enough money. I have to work really hard to make any money, to make any progress. And that's the frequency that you're operating on day in, day out. That is going to show up in the actions that you take in your trading. And then sometimes I've worked with a lot of people who are very religious and they integrate this into their trading. So I was using this example yesterday on a talk about somebody who was very religious and who built like 10 minutes of prayer into their pre-trading routine. And it worked really well for them because they felt more centered after doing their prayers. It was something that they meant to do anyway. But when they actually made it part of their pre-trading routine, they entered the market in a much better space, clearer headspace for trading. And they created a significance between sticking to their trading plan, so honoring their trading plan and being disciplined, with the values that they held in their religion. And so they felt like by them honoring their trading plan and being disciplined, it was honoring their religion. That actually created a really strong connection for them and it helped them to become more disciplined. So that wouldn't work for everybody, but it's just an example of how you can actually integrate your spiritual beliefs and practices into your trading to support the execution of your plan. So this was the image at the start that I wanted to show you, just so you can see how each of these physical, mental, emotional, subconscious, spiritual, energetic all align and how they all influence each other to actually lead to the bullseye target of winning the war, executing your plan exactly as you wanted to on every trade. But this is a lens that you can look at your trading through, but how do we actually put this into practice? How do we make it concrete? So just keeping an eye on time. Okay, I'm going to go 3 minutes over, but I'm nearly there with it, if that's okay, Chris. So we're going to take the example of somebody who is jumping into low quality setups. So they're feeling FOMO, they are taking setups that don't fit their criteria, and they're taking too many trades. And we're just going to run it through this framework to show you how you could decode and resolve that issue using this framework. So the actions that they're taking, we know what they want to do. They want to execute their plan. The actions that they're taking in the physical arena, where are they losing the battle in the physical arena? Well, taking low quality setups, that's probably the biggest physical action that's costing them money. Then we look at the mental arena and we say, well, where are they losing the battle in the mental arena? Probably they're having thoughts like, I have to take every opportunity that the market sends me. I'm going to miss out if I don't listen to the people in the chat room and, listen to the stocks that they're taking and try them out too. They're probably feeling pressure. They're thinking about the rent they have to pay next week. They might even be adopting a biased perspective. So they're forcing setups that aren't actually there according to their criteria, but they're seeing them in their brain. So they're using a biased lens to look at the market through. So they're losing the battle in the mental arena. Then in the emotional subconscious, there's probably a strong feeling of FOMO. That's an emotion, their fear of missing out. They're probably feeling pressure. And they may have some subconscious beliefs around either that, I have to, their trading results reflect their self-worth. That's a really common one that trips people up. And so even though they're not consciously thinking of that, they're refusing to end the day red, even if it is, or just to not take trades, just to sit it out if their setup doesn't appear, because they feel like they have to win trades and they have to end the day green in order to feel good about themselves as a trader. So that would be something that would be going on in the emotional subconscious arena. And then maybe in the spiritual energetic side of things, they're battling away there because they're operating on this frequency of lack. Like we said, there's never enough opportunities. I never have enough money. Everything is scarce. And so that's each of those arenas, and each of those battles is leading to them not executing their plan properly. So then in using this framework, the beauty of it is that you can then, instead of taking one very global solution and trying to slap it on like a band-aid onto the problem, you can actually break it down into all of these component parts and then use mental training techniques to address each of those things individually. So suddenly it's like a jigsaw puzzle where you can take things that are completely in your control and use mental training techniques to improve each of those factors so that the jigsaw puzzle comes together and you're able to execute your plan as you wanted to, overcoming the problem of taking low quality setups. So the flip side of that, when you win the war, you're sticking to only taking the setups that fit your A+ criteria, and you're being a very disciplined, consistent trader. So I will wrap it up now. To pull it all together, the 4 arenas of high performance framework is a lens that you're looking at your trading psychology through. So it's kind of a mental framework, but that doesn't actually tell you how to do that in practice. So if we go back to the sports example, this 4 arenas of high performance framework is like somebody who decides that they're going to commit to a high performance approach to increasing their fitness. So they're going to take into account recovery, biomechanics, flexibility, VO2 max, all of that, and they're going to train for all of it because they want to achieve a really high level of fitness. So they're making that commitment to applying this lens to their goal. So that's what we're doing with this framework. But how do you actually then concretize that? How do you put it into practice? You need a system that takes the thinking out of it. So in that case, that person would go get a trainer who would come up with a practical plan, like a blueprint, do this on Monday, this on Tuesday, eat this, do that, and they would just implement the plan, and that will then take them to their goals. So it goes from being something that's quite mental and abstract to a physical plan that they follow, and then that's how they actually put it into practice. So I just want to explain that. So in this way, the system that you can put that through, I've only explained the lens to look at things through, but the system that you can use, so I've built a system based on 17 years of one-to-one coaching with high performers that is literally an 8-step system that takes you through this. It's the high performance approach to improving your trading psychology. And it's called Go Deep to Level Up Your Trading. But when you apply this, then it means that you can either overcome challenges that are currently holding you back. But the beauty of it is that you can also optimize every aspect of your mental edge before there even is a problem, so that you're actually pushing yourself into that elite performance level. You're not waiting for there to be a problem. Like an Olympic athlete isn't waiting for there to be a problem before they work on their mental edge. They're constantly honing it and training it so that they can get that split-second difference in the final that will mean the difference between gold or silver, or maybe even not medaling at all. So once you build that system, then you just end up with a mental training routine, which is just like a gym routine for your mind. And you just go and implement it day in, day out, week in, week out. And that's what brings that consistency to your trading. So I know that's quite an abstract, high level approach to trading psychology, but what I want to do is try and shift your thinking to give you a new paradigm for thinking about trading psychology from the perspective of high performance so that you can elevate everything you're doing in your trading from the level of, I'm not going to say average because that's undermining where people are at. I don't know where you're at, but let's say that you have bigger goals for yourself in your trading. This is how you close the gap from where you are now to where you want to be. Okay, so 3 quick links. If you want to understand more about that system, it's an online program. You know, that's how I take people through it. That's that first link there. If you're interested in joining, but you want to ask some questions, you want to see inside the program, you know, get a visual on what it is, then, sorry, I think that's actually the wrong link there. I'm going to drop that link in the chat in a minute. You'll see it on the page. There is a link to click to book a program fit call. And then lastly, that bonus gift. So that's the last link there on the screen. You can just literally go to that link and straight download the PDF chapter. So there's no opt-in or anything required. Right, I'm going to stop there and see, is there any questions? Thanks, Michael. Glad it was helpful. Love this question. Terence has said, how do you judge success in your program? So that's something that I'm like, coming from this high performance background, that's something that I'm absolutely, you know, a stickler for. So what we actually do, and this is useful anyway, whether you take the program or not, like this is a useful exercise to go through. We, instead of treating success as being profit, because we can't, I am going to drop a link in the chat, sorry, in a second. Here, sorry, I'll do that now. Try this one. If this link doesn't work, if you just go to the first link and scroll down there, you'll see it on the page. There's another option there on the page to actually go there. So if that, sorry, I think that link isn't going to work. I'm going to go back to the question. So most traders judge success by their P&L, and then they say, but I want to focus on the execution of my plan. Like I should focus on the process. But if you don't have a goal setting framework that actually gives you a structure through which you can do that, then it's just kind of a mental exercise. So what I do in the second module of the program of this Go Deep to Level Up Your Trading program. So this is, someone's just said, is there any more courses where I can learn more? So this is the Go Deep to Level Up Your Trading program is literally where I just take you. I give you that blueprint, you work through it, and you end up with your mental training routine. So in module 2 of that, the entire module is about creating a goal setting framework that creates performance and process goals. So these are goals that are completely within your control. So for example, instead of having a daily profit target, for the example that we used in this talk today, you would actually create a performance goal around the percentage of trades where you took, you know, that fit your A+ setup criteria. So you might set a target like 90% or higher of all trades taken met my A+ setup criteria. And suddenly you've got this concrete measurable goal that's completely objectively measurable, because let's, you know, assume that, say your A+ setup criteria has 5 criteria that have to be hit before you enter a trade. You can literally measure and say, well, I met them on that trade or I didn't. So this is not a self-rating out of 10. This is an actual percentage that you can calculate. And then you track that metric every day, day in, day out in your trading. And that gives you something to focus on rather than just abstract saying, I need to focus on my plan. You're suddenly measuring yourself against this really critical component of your plan that you're struggling with. So in my program, we spend a good bit of time in module 2 creating that framework of goals. And then we move into the deeper stuff like the subconscious work, the optimizing your conscious mind. But because you're tracking this data in your trading every day, you can actually track the impact that all of the deeper stuff is having on your execution before it ever hits your P&L. And typically, I mean, people have experienced results in that early as they move through the course, but typically it's that you see an improvement in your discipline, or people have seen improvement in those discipline metrics well before it ever hits their P&L. So it gives you a much more sophisticated, refined way of seeing the impact that the mindset work is having on your execution before you see the massive uplift in your trading, in your P&L. Hopefully that answers that question there. I'm just going to drop my website one here because the links are getting a bit mixed up. So everything you need, you'll find on that page. the NinjaTrader chapter download link is the one that will take you to the PDF. So that's not like in the menu of my website. You'll only be able to get that from this slide here. But actually, let me just, sorry, I think Chris had dropped the right one in. Yeah, thank you for that. Did anyone else have any other questions there? That was a really good question about, tracking metrics. I think that's really important because it also keeps you motivated. A lot of this work, it's deep work and it can feel like it's abstract. And if you've no way of seeing how it's impacting your trading as you're doing it, you can lose motivation. So another aspect of having that goal setting framework is to keep you motivated to stick with the program, to see it through so that you can actually stick with it long enough to see the impact on the P&L. And just to explain about that book chapter as well. So the chapter I have focused on 7 principles for building a razor sharp mental edge. So it's a much more practical kind of approach, or not approach, it's a much more practical explanation of how to build your mental edge in that book chapter. So if you kind of like this approach, but you want a bit more information on how to apply it or what practical things you can do in your trading to start building your mental edge, to start winning the battle in each of those arenas, then that chapter will walk you through that. There's literally like 7 very concrete principles to follow, and then examples of exercises and techniques that you can use to follow those principles in your trading. So that book chapter should be quite helpful if you're looking for that practical lead on from what we've talked about today. Someone is saying, what's your opinion on robots? To be honest, because I'm not, because I don't trade, I stay out of having an opinion on the technical aspects. I mean, for me, the ideal is for someone to be in a position where they can execute their plan. Like it's within their skill set to do that. They have the discipline, they have the mental edge to do that. And then if they choose to take a more automated approach, that's fine. It's when people take an automated approach because of a deficit in their psychology that I feel like that's not optimal, because it's forcing you into changing your strategy or changing how you trade technically because of a deficit on the psychology side. So the ideal is that you're strong in your psychology, and then that gives you the option from a more strategic perspective to make that decision of, do I want to use more automation in my trading or not? That's a much stronger place to trade from. There, Terence is saying, if you have a Kindle Unlimited subscription, you can actually borrow the whole book for free from Amazon. I know that Andrew, so it's kind of Andrew's book, and I have a 12,000 word chapter in it. I know that occasionally he puts it up for free on Kindle, so you can watch out for that as well. But hopefully that's useful. He goes a lot more into the actual technical side of trading and building a trade book in that book as well. It's gotten, like, his aspect of it has gotten good reviews too. What makes this course different from other trading psychology courses that are being offered? Honestly, like, I'm biased. I'm going to say I'm biased because I created it, but this system is what I did so many one-to-ones over so many years with high performers that there was a pattern in all of the exercises and all of the topics that I was covering with every single person. And it just happened that way. It wasn't like I set out to do it. So I distilled that down into this systematic approach, and the feedback, I believe that it goes deeper and it's more comprehensive than most of the courses out there. You can take or leave that. You can not believe me. That's totally fine. There are testimonials on my website of traders who've gone through it. And just to give you a sense of the depth of it, a lot of people who take it, now this isn't me, I can't guarantee this, but a lot of people who take the course actually find that it also impacts them in other areas of their life. Because if you're motivated to work on these deep subconscious patterns, these childhood patterns and influences that are showing up in your trading, and you do that because you want to improve your trading results, you're actually working on you, the person, and that deep wiring within yourself as a person. And so that actually impacts other aspects of your life as well. So a lot of people have talked about how the transformation that they have achieved through using this process has helped them in lots of different areas of their life as well. So I'm not guaranteeing that. I'm not setting out to do that, but it's just to give you a sense of how deep we're rewiring things. It's definitely not a surface level approach. And I would say if someone's looking for a quick fix or a kind of light course, this isn't it. It is a good amount of work, but I've set it up in such a way that it's like a blueprint. You don't have to do any thinking outside of the exercises and the systematic, module by module approach. There's also a ton of actual practical techniques and resources, so like MP3s, meditations, progressive muscle relaxation. There's a visualization to help you connect with your subconscious personification of money to work on your money mindset. So it's pretty much the kitchen sink. Like, this is my one main program because I put everything into it. I didn't try and build 5 programs that get progressively more comprehensive. This is literally my like main signature program, and that's what I share with people. Thanks for your lovely feedback there, Joe. Why are you learning Portuguese? Oh, I speak Portuguese. I'm fluent in Portuguese. My partner is actually Brazilian, and so my daughters are Brazilian Irish. And when I met my partner, he didn't speak English, so I learned Portuguese, but I love it. Erwin is saying, what's the cost for the program? It's $2,997. So it is an investment. I don't do discounts. So just if anyone's like waiting for, Black Friday, I stopped approaching it that way because I just think there's a lot of value in it. I've put my heart and soul into it, and I feel that's a fair price for it. So I'm kind of not doing the marketing tricks around it. It is that people can take or leave it. There is a payment plan if you want to do it in 3 payments. Joe is saying, I'll be in touch for sure. Going to sign up for the course and would love to explore one-to-one work. I do very little one-to-one work now. I do it, but I'm very, there's an application process, and we make sure that it's a good fit. So if you want to reach out to me by email, that's the best way to kind of do that. I don't think it's even visible on my website at the moment. So happy to chat to you about that. Just reach out to me personally. So Créde@CrédePerformance.com, and I can catch up with you on that one if you want. How long is the process? So you get a year access to the program, so the system. But the idea is it's an 8-module program, but I say don't do more than 1 module a week because it's very intensive. But the reality is that people usually take a bit longer to do it. So it could be from anything from 8 weeks to 3 months to run through it once. And then people often go back for a second pass through it. But the idea is that it's a system that you then like absorb and integrate into your own trading so that you continue to use it throughout your entire trading career. So it's not like a course that you kind of watch and then you're left hanging. The idea is that you actually integrate it so well that at the end of the year, there's not really a need to keep looking at the videos because you've integrated it into your trading and you have all of those techniques at your disposal. Thanks, Eric. Lovely to see you there. Eric took the program, so very nice to see you coming back for some more doses of trading psychology chat there. But thanks for your engagement, everyone. I know Chris is probably going to, can you mention once again the full fee? $2,997. And that's either in 1 payment or you can do it in a 3 installment payment plan either. And like I said, there's no discounts. I don't do, seasonal discounts or anything like that. It's just that price all year round. But if you do want to, if you're kind of thinking about it, but feeling like it's a big investment or you're not sure, please do feel free to apply to book that program fit call. And I can screen share inside the program so you can actually see inside it. So, there's no surprises. You can see the level of depth. You can see if that's something that you want to go to that deep level with it. Ask any questions, So there's a short application form to book that call just because I'm limited on how many I can do. Just make sure that it's aligned, with where you're at in your trading. And so there's a short application form. If it's a good fit, if I feel I can help, then you're directed to like a Zoom calendar link where you can just book the call. So I'm very happy to chat to people on that, to show you inside the program. It's not, I'd prefer people are fully informed before they sign up and they're ready for the full work and the transformation, rather than people jumping in and regretting it. So I'm happy to help people walk through that process of figuring out if it is the right fit or not.